The old song of my spirit has wearied itself out. It has long ago been learned by heart so that now it repeats itself over and over, bringing no added joy to my days or lift to my spirit. The old song, perfect in its place, is not for the new demand. I will sing a new song. As difficult as it is, I must learn the new song that is capable of meeting the new need. I must fashion new words born of all the new growth of my life, my mind, and my spirit. I must prepare for new melodies that have never been mine before, that all this is within me may lift my voice unto God. These are the words of the great theologian and peace activist, Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman. He's an African-American man who wrote and published this in 1953, so consider that moment in history, my friends. 1953, as a black man in America. A lot of people also don't know that Thurman was Martin Luther King's mentor and spiritual advisor, and many say there would be no king without Thurman. They met at Boston University's School of Theology. Thurman was the dean of Marsh Chapel after being a student there for a time, and King was a student. And this is why they call that seminary the School of Theology at Boston University, which so happens to be my alma mater, the School of the Prophets. Cool, right? The old song of my spirit has wearied itself out, bringing no added joy to my days or lift to my spirit. I will sing a new song. Now, Thurman was what we would call a contemplative. Notice that he doesn't say we or you once. He rarely wrote or preached that way. The contemplative activist teaches us that transformation, peace, collective liberation, justice, a new song, it requires consistent interior work, introspection, personal spiritual deepening, reckoning. This is the contemplative's path. And that this guides us then in knowing what our part is in healing the torn web of humanity and existence. It was Thurman, maybe you know these words, it was Thurman who also gave us that well-known teaching, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Knowing what makes you come alive is to know one's song that meets the current need, to know one's ever-changing song that meets the current need. And this takes deep, deep soul work. Now, like Lynn, our beloved Lynn, who shared some of her recovery story with us last week, I also have a lot of time living a life of recovery from alcohol and drug addiction. In fact, this Tuesday, I will celebrate 24 years of time. So, oh. Thank you. Those rooms the theology and instruction manual of 12-step work, it taught me most everything I know about community, spiritual community, selfless service, personal healing, a relationship with something more. For me, that something more is called God. And healthy relationships and repair. Those rooms taught me about that too. How I show up in the world. It made me a contemplative activist before I had those words. Dear one. The rooms of 12-step recovery and all that I learned there, it pairs so beautifully with Unitarian-Universalism. It pairs so beautifully with Unitarian-Universalism. For our shared values and way of staying in covenant with one another, they're in pitch-perfect harmony with 12-step recovery. They really are, and I know many of you know that. Lynn also spoke about the 9th step a bit last week, which is all about amends and repair. And let me tell you, I quivered at the thought of this when I was in early recovery because, and I really don't mean to say this to be funny, it is true, I was the type of addict and alcoholic that you kind of hope did not show up at your Thanksgiving dinners. Everyone braced themselves around me 25 plus years ago, monitoring where they put their purse and valuables to. Yes, yeah. I had a lot of repair work to do, and I quivered at the thought. You know, often families and friends of people like me, they line up at the door to get their apology or recoup some of their stolen goods or money when a person finally gets sober. And I have seen a lot of newcomers feel the pressure to rush into amends prematurely. I've worked with alcoholics and drug addicts in a variety of settings for 2 decades now. It's a service I take very seriously in my life. It's what makes me come alive. And I always tell them, there are 8 steps that you have to slowly and intentionally move through before you get to this one. It is the master class step. In my mind, it should take a newly sober person years to get there, quite frankly. Distilled simply, in the 12 steps of recovery, you have to cultivate a spiritual life and a relationship with a higher power. You have to surrender, get honest about the disease you have. You have to do a full-blown interior excavation on yourself, all the fears and shames and hurts and resentments of your life. No stone left unturned, we say, lest we make mortar out of sand, we say. And the worn-out songs being sung have to go. And you have to look it all square in the face and share all of it with someone and release it so that you start to begin to learn a new song. You do all of this before you ever even dream of making amends or doing repair work with others. Like David's story about the flat tire, lasting and transformative amends and repair must be oriented towards what the deeper tear is. Do I even know what I'm trying to repair here? Am I prepared spiritually to face it and listen? By the time I arrived at this step, the big and obvious infractions were fairly easy to deal with. It was more challenging to contend with all the small ways I enacted harm on others, in personal relationships and simply moving through the world. Now we're talking about impact. How do my words, my actions, my moods, my needs impact people around me? Hurt them? Most often not my intent. When we are torn inside, activated in some way, we talked about earlier this year the shards of glass, the thorns in our arms that touch something deep. It's not only difficult to get out of our own way, but we tend to be oblivious to how we impact our environments and the people in them. My God, are we seeing this play itself out in our country and world? I think this is the second time that I'm about to say what I'm going to say from this pulpit, this church year. God, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Some of the most stunning, mystical, spiritual experiences I've ever had have occurred when trying for repair with others. Face to face, sharing pain, listening to what my impact has been on my fellows, being curious about their song so that we might make a new song, apologizing and committing myself to the best of my ability to trying to not do it again. 90% of the repair work I did 20 years ago and continue to try for today and still stumble around with opened my heart and mind up to a whole other reality. That's the transformative power of it. You mean my reality isn't the only reality? I mean, the assumptions, we all get hooked by them. It's called being human and having a pulse. Okay. The old song of my spirit has wearied itself out. I will sing a new song to meet the new need. You know, when Archbishop Desmond Tutu was appointed as the chair of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission after the end of apartheid in South Africa, do you know what he did? He gathered everyone together, oppressors, oppressed, witnesses, gathered them all up to listen to each other's stories, pains, 22,000 testimonies that spoke to decades of human rights violations on every side of the thing, with the express purpose of promoting reconciliation and forgiveness between victims and perpetrators of apartheid. This whole thing took 7 years, round the clock. It's a wonderful wisdom teaching about patience, isn't it? Transformative healing within and with. True repair takes time. It takes time. And there's a real ambiguity about all this. This isn't about coming out clean and moral purity and one right side or everyone hugging it out and being ever stronger and better for it. It's just not. Spiritual practice of amends and repair holds a lot of nuance and ambiguity and unexpected twists and turns and complete changes of heart and mind. Do you know about the Japanese practice of kintsugi? It translates as this: kin, golden; tsugi, repair. Golden repair. A bowl breaks. Is Kathy Button here? We're just going to evoke invoke Kathy Button every week. A bowl breaks. Do you throw it out? No. All right. That's the third week in a row that it's a new motto. Put it on our church communications. No. Each piece is put back together, but instead of hiding the cracks and imperfections that have come with the breaking, the Japanese draw even more attention to them. They paint each seam or chip gold. The art of kintsugi highlights the repair rather than hiding it. And the imperfections are what make the piece all that much more exquisite than before, and get this, even more valuable in Japan. Its worth goes up. I should add that the first instruction to kintsugi on every blog I checked this week starts with something like this: be patient. There's a whole process that goes into this. It's not just Gorilla Glue and gold paint from Michael's. This process, the instructions say, must be taken slow, and it takes tons of trial and error. Relationships in our faith are the same. We covenant with one another to be loving and attentive to the joys and pains of our fellows. We covenant with one another to be responsible for ourselves, to do our own interior spiritual work that helps guide our words and our ways and our actions, our impact in each other's midst. We covenant to call each other back into relationship with one another when, not if, when repair is needed. Not call out, call in, with sometimes broken but trying for open hearts. Therein lies the gold. I think that's where the gold is. This practice of ours here as Unitarian Universalists, this keeps us all, this trying for this keeps us all spiritually alive. Do you see? And this is what the world does need of us. More than ever, aliveness. A new song and way. Do you know that in 12-step recovery, the finale step, number 12, is about service to our fellows and to the world? Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we carry this message and practice these principles in all of our affairs. And something we always say in the rooms is, you can't give away something that you ain't got. Lest you cause harm. We are about to enter the season of Advent, my friends, where we quiet down and we draw from the earth's wisdom and transformative power that is called wait. Our month's theme is presence, and we need this badly right now. Wait, presence. Pause, breathe, listen, so that we might know what needs repairing within and among, so that we might know how to be repair in our world, more exquisite because of the cracks, a new song meeting the new need. And I want to give our poet the final word here. Unity by Rosemary Watola Trommer. Today, we lose the words yours and mine and find in their absence a song that can only be sung together. How did we ever think we could attempt this humanness alone? To the table of love we bring soup, bring cherries, bring the bread of our own sweet communion. We bring scissors to cut away the tresses of the past. Bring dark wine to toast the courage of showing up exposed. And when we forget the words to the song, well, there is always laughter. And when we forget to laugh, well, there is always the union of tears, the way many rivers become one river, the way many voices become one song. May it be so, and amen.